So, awesome movie. We unfortunately have a short Q&A because these guys have to get to the airport. Now, there's probably a lot of horse questions out here, but I wanted to start with a filmmaker question. Um, so we know this is a first film. We know it took you 2.5 years to make it. We know it was a work of love. You met Buck. You decided there should be a film. So what would you say was some of the most surprising things that happened after you decided to make the film that you didn't expect as a first-timer?
Well, that is a loaded question. So many things happened. It gave me huge respect for people who make movies because I hadn't done it, and I suppose I was a bit naive going into it. When you go to see a film, trust me, there are long hours and long days and 7-day, you're working 7 days a week. Editing a documentary is difficult. We had 300 hours of footage, and you don't have a script, so you take 300 hours and then you create your story. So it was and we had so much footage that we couldn't use, which was really difficult because everything he said, you would just go, that's brilliant, we want to put that on the screen. So I hate to tell you what's on the cutting room floor, but we hope to use that and some more educational DVDs for horse people later. But it was brilliant all the way through. We had an amazing time. We worked hard. Everyone was so entered. The people, like I said, the people that follow Buck are such beautiful people, like what you see on the screen. It's so real, and we were all consumed with that love and that energy. So it was a beautiful project.
Well, it's a classically beautiful film. It's classically shot. The story unfolds, the story of Buck, the story of what he does, and the theme of it, which has to do with how we treat each other, I think. Is that something that the thematic elements, how we treat each other, how you focus on what you love in your life, is that something that evolved as you edited?
Well, that was something
or did you know it ahead of time?
You knew it was there, yeah.
Okay.
If you read his book, The Faraway Horses, I highly recommend it. See, I'm plugging your book. No, but a lot of it was already there. I'd read the book and I knew that about the childhood from the book. But those themes, that's what made me move to make this film, is that you're there, you're listening to this man all day at a clinic, and you walk away with a lot more than horse knowledge. So that was it.
I'm sorry, honestly. Yes, the woman right there. Have you ever been bucked, Buck?
Well, actually, early on, quite a bit more frequently than now. But that's sort of the whole premise of this style of horsemanship. Now at this stage in my life, I could start 300 or 400 head of horses, and maybe none of them would buck with me. But early on, some of those little bits of knowledge come kind of hard. I've probably fallen off more horses than most people have seen.
Let me repeat that.
Yeah, I do.
Let me just repeat that because it's a big place. He says thank you, and he wonders about what's going on with Buck's brother.
Yeah, we get that question every time, actually. And my brother, right out of high school, joined the Coast Guard, spent 25 years in there and retired, and raised a family, and has a good life. He's happy, lives in Wisconsin. Yeah.
Okay, good. Yes. She's asking how else did the woman fail the colt who ends up getting taken away?
Well, basically the bigger message in that part of the story was that whether you're going to have kids or you're going to have young horses or you're going to have a dog, whatever it is, there's a responsibility when they're early on, showing them how they can fit in, helping them to learn what's acceptable and what isn't. Because with a horse, they can become so damn dangerous if you don't do your part. And of course, That horse grew up without a mother, and a lot of people underestimate actually what a mare does for the foal in the raising of the foal. It's very complicated. It's a study in itself. And when the human has to fill that role on top of what they would have been doing, unless you're really experienced, you're going to have an awful hard time with it. So,
Thank you. Yes.
So then how do you know that colt that when it's a lost cause? Like, did you, even with your skill, that you thought that there was really nothing anyone could do?
what
So
I
how do you know
had
it's a
to-
lost cause? How does Buck know it's a lost cause, like with that colt?
What I had to determine is as you noticed, when I was working with the horse, things went along just fine. But the reality was, with her experience and lack of knowledge, there was no way that woman was going to survive without getting hurt or killed on that horse, and I couldn't very well go home and live with her. And so without me, and even with Dan, who has quite a bit of experience, he didn't have enough. Without me looking over their shoulder every second, there was no way they were going to survive. So it's a moral issue of trying to take care of your fellow human being too, and just saying, you know what, man, you're in over your head. And it's very sad, but hopefully that message will help people to understand the responsibilities of having horses early on so that that doesn't have to happen.
A couple more questions. Yes, in the back there. Oh, you're going to come to Missouri for a clinic. Yay.
I had that question the last couple of days quite a few times. You know, I do about 35 to 40 clinics a year all over the United States, and if I'm blessed enough to be able to do this another 30 years, I'll probably show up here eventually. Yeah.
Yes, there was a question down here. There you go. Do you ever bring in colts like that to work with him specifically?
Yeah,
When somebody else
Well,
can't handle the horse, yeah.
and that's the difference between me and the people that go to my clinics. For years, I've searched for those kind of horses, and the horse that's on the cover of my book, his name is Biff. He was about 100 times more difficult than that horse in the film. But I bought him because I knew he was going to be. I knew how they treated these horses on this particular ranch. I'd worked with them before. And then they had let this horse go till he was 5 or 6 years old, and I knew he was just going to be a panther to work with. Well, a lot of people wouldn't want any part of it, but he taught me so much. He's still alive, actually, and I've kept him all of his life, and he turned out to be a great horse for me, and anyone else, he'd probably killed him in the first 10 minutes. But so that's been part of my education, is working with those kind of horses.
There no, this is a beautifully edited, beautifully made film. So I'm just wondering, are there any filmmaker questions here? I don't know, maybe there's not. Okay, yes, who has a question? Yes, there you are, okay. Why did you decide to make the movie? And why did Buck decide to make the movie? Yeah. There you go. Why
Well-
did you trust Cindy? Yeah, really, that's a good question.
Well, I had already known Cindy for a while, so we had become friends, and I didn't know her as a filmmaker when we first met. She was going to my clinics, and we became friends, and I thought, best case scenario, maybe what I'm trying to do with my life, with horses and people, maybe it will reach a greater number of people by doing this. And worst case scenario, Cindy would get started and realized what a difficult subject it was and just give up. So, but she's put her heart into this the last 3 years. I mean, that's all she's lived the last 3 years. So it's really it's an amazing accomplishment that
really
she
is.
was able to do this.
Yeah. It's such a fantastic movie. I'm sorry we only have time for one more question. They have to get to the airport. How about over here?
I did learn as I went along. Honestly, in my younger years, I was a fashion designer, and then I was a fine artist, fine art artist, and a photographer, but never really did any moving pictures, I had taken art school, but not for film. But I really I was so passionate about showing, what he taught, because I felt so I thought it was just a crime that no one had taught me this before, because I do love horses, I love animals, and I thought it was such a powerful message about animals and how sensitive they are, and how people so underestimate the sensitivity of animals, especially horses. They think they need to kick every step out of them and bit them up and all this stuff, and if you understand horses, you know what I'm talking about. And that, to me, I think that truth always resonates with me, and I had been taught one way, and you kind of go, okay, the teacher's saying this over and over and over, and so you go along with that program, and until you do see somebody doing it differently, and it just speaks to you here, you know that that's the truth. And that drove me to make the film, and I could learn anything needing to tell a story like that, It's just, I think you do what you got to do. So I don't know if that answers your question.
So we
Anyway.
really want to, I'm sorry we have to go, but I really want to thank Cindy and Buck for being able to join us at True False today.
I just wanted to say that we're very, very fortunate to have a distributor in IFC Films, and the film is looking like it's going to come out on June 24th. So tell everybody you know.
Thank you guys for coming. You've been so nice to us. Thank you. Thank you very much.